Okay, next we have Michelle Fay, who is a program manager from Stopwaste. Michelle Fay joined Stopwaste in September 2012 and provides program management for the business assistance team servicing Alameda County. She provides outreach, communications, and programmatic support for the Reusable Transport Packaging Project, Mandatory Recycling Project, and the annual Stop Waste Business Efficiency Awards event, which I'd love to have one of our businesses apply for and win sometime. Prior to her work at Stop Waste, Michelle spent 8 years at Castro Valley Sanitary District providing recycling education and outreach to schools, businesses, and multifamily properties. Michelle graduated from California State University East Bay with a bachelor's degree in environmental sciences. Please welcome Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. All right, I'm going to get myself situated here. All right, so we heard that recycling is the right thing to do. We know that National Sword is requiring us to sort better. And I'm here to tell you that it's the law. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what the laws are and how to comply, and then I'll kind of explain how it's being enforced here in Alameda County. Alrighty, so who here has heard of Stopwaste before? I think most of us. So I always like to start with explaining who the heck we are. So our nickname is Stopwaste, but officially we are the Alameda County Waste Management Authority, and we are a local county-wide government agency with a mission to send less garbage to landfills from Alameda County's businesses, schools, and residents. So that's a pretty big task, and to do that, we offer a variety of programs looking both upstream at how do we make less waste in the first place. So I know a lot of us bring our reusable mugs and cups. We were talking about Oracle, how they're implementing reusable for their dine-in cafeteria. So how do we help support folks to make less waste in the first place? But then what we also do then is looking at the recycling and composting, making sure the materials that we do generate as waste, making sure we get them into the right bins. That last bullet. So you might be wondering, how are we funded? So for every ton of garbage that is sent to landfill from Alameda County, there's a fee added to that. And that fee then comes back to our agency to implement these countywide programs. So before I talk about this slide, what I want to share is that recycling really started in earnest in the mid-90s, and we started working with businesses to try to set up good recycling programs. And then in the 2000s, composting became available, and we started setting up organics collection programs. And then in 2008, our agency took almost a literal dive into the trash to see what was still being thrown away in a waste characterization study. And we found that over 60% of the materials that were being thrown away by Alameda County businesses could have easily been put in a recycling bin or a composting bin. And that was after about 15 years of what we considered voluntary recycling and composting programs. So at that time, our board started looking at other options. Again, our mission is to send less waste to landfill, and we knew we couldn't continue to do that with voluntary work. So in 2012, our board of directors adopted the mandatory recycling and composting ordinance for Alameda County businesses and multifamily properties. And we have 17 jurisdictions across all of Alameda County. So we gave each of those jurisdictions the opportunity to phase in, either opt out, participate on the regular timeline, or phase in the requirements. So the city of Pleasanton opted to phase in the requirements. So that's what you see here on this slide. Starting in March of 2013, the recycling rules went into effect here for businesses and multifamily properties, actually the larger businesses, those that generated 4 or more cubic yards of garbage. And then effective January 1, 2017, those recycling requirements became effective for all businesses, and we added the organics collection requirements at that time. This slide gives you a brief overview of what the three main rules are for the mandatory recycling law. First and foremost, businesses and multifamily properties need to subscribe to those recycling and composting services. And you see an asterisk on that organic service. And basically what that is saying is that we understand that not every single business really generates enough organic materials to warrant that third truck to come by, to warrant that third bin. So in Alameda County, we say that only businesses that generate what we call a significant amount of organic materials need to have that third bin, and I'll talk more about that on the next slide. The second rule is to sort materials properly. And we can enforce that on businesses, and we cannot enforce that at multifamily settings. So we encourage it at multifamily properties. However, we won't hold property owners and managers responsible for the improper sorting of their residential tenants. Last but not least is this annual education requirement. So earlier you were talking about how do we teach our tenants, particularly in a multi-tenant commercial setting. So the law actually requires us, every time a tenant moves in or moves out, we need to remind them of how to sort properly and the fact that it's the law. And then at least once a year, employees, tenants, and contractors need to be reminded. And towards the end of my presentation, I have a little tip on how to do that. Okay, I kind of dread this slide. It's a lot, it's confusing. But basically, what you see here in the top in the brackets, that's the state law. So around the same time that our county agency was talking about how do we get businesses to sort better, the state was talking about that as well. So AB 341 is a state law that requires businesses with 4 or more cubic yards of garbage service to have recycling. Later, a few years later, AB 1826 went into effect that started to require businesses to have organic collection service as well. And then over the years, they've kind of ratcheted down what that level is, and now all businesses that generate 4 or more cubic yards of combined solid waste service, so garbage and recycling, must have organics collection according to the state law. What you see below those brackets are the local Alameda County law, and that's what our agency is enforcing. So we say that all businesses need recycling, and I think we all can attest, no matter where you are, what type of business, there's some level of recyclables being generated. We all need to have service for that. For organics, we look at these 2 types of businesses. The first check mark you see there is those businesses that generate significant quantities, or 20 gallons, what we call or define as 20 gallons of organics or food scraps and plant debris. So I like to think of it as like a 5-gallon paint bucket. If you can all imagine a 5-gallon paint bucket in your head, and imagine 4 of those. If you were to look inside your garbage bin the day before or the evening before that garbage truck is going to come by and pick it up, if you can imagine all 4 of those buckets filled with food scraps, that to us means that's enough food, and plant debris really, that's enough organic waste to warrant that third truck to come by. Also, we believe that any business that has a food generators permit, so restaurants, grocery stores, food manufacturers, all of those that have a food generator permit and have at least 4 cubic yards of total weekly solid waste service, those really are businesses that are generating a significant amount and also need to have service. Maybe I'll just pause right now. Any questions on this? Because I know that's a little bit tricky. Good so far? Okay. So in Alameda County, we do have a very active routine enforcement program, and that starts with our 2 in-house inspectors that go out on site to businesses to dig inside the trash. Mark, you're not the only one. So the first thing they're going to do when they arrive on site is they're going to locate those hauler service bins. So the bins that PGS comes by and picks up, they're going to go find those bins, and if they are publicly accessible meaning they're not behind a locked enclosure or a locked gate or inside a building. They're just going to go straight to those bins and get to work and do their inspection. If those bins are behind a locked area, they will go look for somebody to get permission to start looking in the bins. Next, they're going to use their tablet. So we developed our own customized tablet application that connects directly in-house to our office's customer relationship management system, our CRM. And they're going to go through their inspection checklist, essentially identifying what bins are on site, making sure that matches up with our service level information that we have, that we get from the hauler. And then they're going to start opening trash bags. Fun, right? So they have a long stick with a hook on the end, and they start slashing bags, and they're going to open as many bags as it takes to find some sorting error, so a sorting violation. So they're looking for bottles, cans, paper, cardboard, as well as any organic materials, food scraps, food soiled paper, and plant debris. So they'll open generally a majority of bags if they need to, or if it's really obvious right off the top, they won't open a ton of bags. And they're going to record that information in their tablet, and then they're going to look for the recycling bin, and they're also going to look for organics bins if they are on site. And they're going to see if there's trash in those bins. So not only are they looking for good stuff in the garbage, but they're also looking for contamination, for stuff that shouldn't be in the recycling and composting. And as we heard earlier, it's more important than ever to make sure our recyclables are clean. That data goes back to our office, where enforcement, supervisors are reviewing all the enforcement data and then making a final determination on whether or not there's a violation on site. And last fiscal year, 54% of all inspections resulted in a violation. So we still have a lot of work to do. Just real briefly, we have a 3-step enforcement notification process. So before any one business gets a citation and a fine issued, you would have already received an official notification letter, which may or may not be based on a violation. It's just notifying you officially of the law. The second step is a warning letter. So if we go on site and the first time we find a violation, we'll give you a warning. And then after that point, on the next inspection, if there's another violation, you would get a citation and a fine along with that. And the point I want to make on this slide is once you reach that third stage, that citation and fine level, there's no resetting, there's no going back. Once cited, always cited. So I like to give a sense of scale to our enforcement efforts. Last fiscal year, we inspected over 6,000 accounts throughout Alameda County, and there's roughly 20,000 total businesses throughout the county. So over a quarter of the businesses were inspected last year. We do prioritize some of the larger businesses and those food-generating businesses. And of those, about 1,400 received a violation letter, and I didn't put it up on the slide, but of those 1,400 violation letters, 600 last year were citations and fines. So, oh gosh, another one of these slides was way too much. So this highlights what those fines are if you do get a violation. And I just want to point out, you don't need to look at all the detail here. I just want to point out a few key things. First of all, the first 3 rows are and you can see in the first fine column, it's $100. That's the fine amount if you improperly sort materials. So you can get a $100 fine for putting good stuff in the garbage, recyclables or organics. You can get a $100 fine for putting things in the recycling bin that shouldn't be there, and then another $100 fine for putting things in the organics that shouldn't be there. Then the bottom 2 rows are the fines for not having the services that you need. So it's $150 for not having recycling, $150 for not having organics, and all of these can be added up. So depending on what we find on site at that inspection, we would add up all these different fines. Now you see the second fine and the third fine. So within 1 year, we're going to keep going back to those violating sites, and we're going to see if after we sent you that first letter, if you're able to clean up your act. If we find that there's still a violation, those fine amounts double, and then on that third inspection within a year, they double again. So that's what that far right column is the fine amounts if you were to receive a third citation within a year. Now this does reset. So you'll always get citations once you get a citation, but the fine amounts reset after 1 year. Okay, we've been talking a lot about enforcement, but really, ultimately, as I said when I started out, we want to get those materials out of the trash. Our goal is compliance, and we really want to help you do that. So we work very closely with Mark and the Pleasanton Garbage Service team. We also have resources available to go out on site and do staff trainings, set up, as you see in this photo on the right, what we call indoor recycling stations. We think it's really important to make sure all of your bins are labeled. I even brought some stickers that are out on the table out front that you're welcome to grab, and you can order more on our website. We also think it's important to have signs on the wall at eye level if you can. So one resource that we have is our sign maker tool, where you can actually go online, and we have a whole menu of photos. So depending on what it is you're throwing away at that particular area, you can drag and drop photos and then print out your own customized signs. And then similar to what Mark does, we can go out and do an on-site waste assessment. And what's great in Pleasanton is that the rates for recycling and organics are 25% less than garbage. So we can help you do the math to figure out exactly what the right amount of services are and help hopefully identify a cost savings for you. If you're going to remember one website from my presentation, it would be this one. It's recyclingrulesa.org/resources. And that's kind of the one-stop shop where you'll find all the great free resources available to businesses and multifamily properties. And I'll be the first to admit, if you don't go to this page and just try to get to our website, it's like a nightmare to try to navigate. So that's another project. But anyway, I mentioned the customizable posters and signs. We have overview flyers. If there's someone on site that you need to tell, hey, this is the law, this is that overview flyer, there's some outside, take this. You can order the free stickers there. And then last but not least, we offer free indoor green bins to help set up those recycling stations. And you can get up to $500 worth of free bins from us. There we go. Okay, real briefly, that annual requirement that says you have to notify employees, tenants, and contractors, I think the best way to do that, best would be in person, talking to folks and walking through how to recycle. But we also have this new 5-minute training video that's intended for tenants and employees. So you can send this out via email if you have emails for your different tenants, or have folks gather around a laptop and you can watch a 5-minute video that explains how to properly sort materials. So that is also available at that resources page that I mentioned on the previous slide. Also, it's available in different languages. It's in Chinese and Spanish, and we have other resources, for example, this overview flyer translated in, it's in 5 languages. All right, last but not least, I wanted to just mention that our agency is also the government agency that passed the Reusable Bag Ordinance. So if you are a restaurant or a retail store, this applies to you, and it basically states that you can no longer use single-use plastic bags, and you have to charge 10 cents for reusable, at least 10 cents for paper bags or a reusable bag, which sometimes are the thicker plastic bags that can be used many times. I don't work on this project, so don't ask me questions about this one. I'm just kidding. So that's all I have for you, and I'm happy to take questions if you have them. Thank you.